Well, good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus. It is 1:04 p.m. It's also December 4th, and it is Thursday, a day away from Friday, and 1 day away from the start of the weekend. A day and some change away from the start of the weekend. But for now, we put that off. We wait on that. We don't worry about it because we've got 2 hours of Live Impact News to bring to you right now, and we've got a very busy slate today. But we couldn't possibly make our way through that busy slate without the People's producer, Nia Campbell. Nia, welcome to the studio. I know you've been here for a while getting everything set up. Great to see you. How's everything?
Everything's going good. How are you?
Okay, cool. Are you in the holiday spirit?
I am. My mic was muted. I said I was doing good for everyone who didn't hear.
Yes, Nia Campbell doing good and has a great show set up for us today. I am doing well as well. Thank you, Nia. And we know because he came in here with a lot of energy. He came in on fire as he normally does. Meteorologist Hunter Forst is in the house as well on a weather impact alert eve, I suppose.
Right.
We're looking at some heavy weather tomorrow. It is an early September possible winter situation here.
Yeah, we have the chance to see some rain, some snow, and a little bit of a mix as well.
The wintry mix.
The wintry mix. Okay. But I would say for the most part, at least if you are in, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, around the Admiral Sound, you're not going to be waking up to, a beautiful winter wonderland, unfortunately. More likely a cold rain.
Okay, a cold rain, which we've already had some of that this week.
So it's like you might as well, have it be all snow. Instead of, if it's 35 and raining, it's like...
If you're a few degrees away from getting that actual nice early December snowfall, you might as well have that instead of the cold rain. But for some people... being able to maneuver around a little bit more in the cold rain is definitely possible versus the snow.
That's true. Yeah, definitely a little bit easier to drive in. That's for sure.
Yes.
But some of us to the west, could see a little bit of snow accumulation heading into tomorrow morning.
Parts of our viewing area.
Yeah, exactly. If you're in Williamsburg, you may, be seeing a little bit of snow tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So that could be nice.
What about Newport News area?
Newport News, they are really right on the cusp.
Okay.
Of the I think they'll see a little bit of snow in the morning, and then of course see that transition on over to rain.
And then I know Suffolk is over there on the cusp as well, correct?
Yes, Suffolk as well. So a lot of these areas could, pick up a little bit of accumulation, especially on elevated surfaces. But anything you do pick up will likely be washed away by that transition on over to rain by, mid to late morning.
And we're talking mid to late morning. Are we talking, 10, 11 a.m. it'll be washed away, or earlier than that even?
I would say, 9, 10, 11 o'clock. The further north you are, further northwest, the later into the morning. You'll see that transition.
All right, very good.
But
so we've got early December snow. Go ahead, here in Norfolk?
Here in Norfolk, it's the rain pretty much is starting at, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Could see a few, wet flakes earlier than that, but not going to be a beautiful Friday morning here.
You're not going to see anything on the ground when you wake up other than a damp sort of street in front of you there. And I know this morning I had quite a bit of frost on my car. I had to sit in the car for some time waiting for it to warm up, just hanging out. Now, will we be experiencing any of that, or because of the moisture, we won't have to deal with any of the frost?
Yeah, no, likely not. Just going to be seeing, maybe have to get one of those light brushes in some areas to wipe off some of the snow. Some of the snow could be, a little bit heavy and damp, especially when those temperatures are teetering right around freezing. It's not really going to be, if you do see any accumulation, not going to be, the white, beautiful powder that some of us can see, out in the mountains.
Yeah.
Can be, wet.
Sort of a slush type of deal.
Good amount of us seeing some slush.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
for sure.
And a weather impact alert in effect all day tomorrow?
I would say by the early afternoon, we could start to wind down on the weather impact alert as we transition all over to rain, and then even the rain starts to move out. So by Friday evening, things will be looking much better. It's really in the morning which will have the most impact, especially if you're heading off to work. So like we were saying, could see some of that snow accumulation in areas inland, especially on the elevated surfaces. But the closer you are to the coast, you won't be seeing really any snow accumulation. But as we look at our satellite radar right now, just seeing some of that cloud cover from this system off towards our south and west, all of that rain pushing into our area heading into tomorrow morning. And even by, this afternoon and evening, you'll notice that increase in cloud cover. Temperatures dropping back into the upper 30s to lower 40s. And then here we are, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, seeing some snow from the eastern shore around Williamsburg, Gloucester, Richmond, Petersburg. Again, could be seeing, a few flakes flying, say that 10 times fast, around downtown Norfolk. But, Virginia Beach, really going to be all rain, even from early in the morning. And then by 6, 7 o'clock, we see that transition from much of the south side, from any snow to all rain. Same around to areas in the eastern shore, but still seeing that snow around 7, 8 o'clock in Ivor, Williamsburg, Gloucester. But really pretty much south of the state line is all rain. And then we see that rain-snow line pushing up to the north around 9, 10 o'clock. So you're on the cusp there in Williamsburg and Gloucester, but still could be seeing, a few flakes. And then pretty much seeing all rain by the late morning and lunchtime, as we are pretty much into the lower 40s across much of the region. So by this point in time, if you saw any accumulation from Gloucester south, likely going to be washed away. But if you're over towards Richmond, you kind of stay in this snow basically the entire time. So they could be seeing, a couple of inches that sticks around. But for much of us here, likely won't be seeing that. And then as we head into, the mid to late afternoon and evening, we dry out. It's a much better commute home. Temperatures in the mid to lower 40s to upper 30s. And in terms of rainfall, a lot more rain from Norfolk to Virginia Beach down through Elizabeth City and Eatonton, Hosky. Eastern Shore, could be seeing, a little bit of snow to start out early in the morning, but then sees that transition to rain as well. But could be seeing, a trace to an inch up through, Franklin, Williamsburg, and Hampton, and then 1 to 2, even 1 to 2 plus inches around Richmond, since they'll be seeing, some more of that snow through the day without that transition to rain to kind of help wash it away. But again, most of us will not be waking up to a beautiful winter wonderland. This isn't, a crazy snowstorm. It's just more of a nuisance for a lot of us. That's the real takeaway from this. We're not going to be really needing to take out your shovels.
Right.
Maybe some of us, if you get the slush, you kind of want to make sure that's out of any walkways in case it refreezes.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be anything, we haven't dealt with
Still
before.
cold.
Still cold.
Still wet, but you don't get that sort of peaceful snowfall.
Exactly.
That maybe we'll get when it's a full-on freezing
Right.
temperature snow situation.
Right.
This is slush, water, rain, and then if you go up north a little bit, some real snow around Richmond and Tappahannock in that area.
For sure, yeah. Definitely if you're heading up that way tomorrow, could be seeing a more picturesque area compared to here.
Yeah. You're really into the aesthetics of the snow, I can tell.
Well,
Yeah.
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 I like to live in a Hallmark movie.
Sure.
And,
That's what we often say. There goes Hunter, just living in a Hallmark
and,
movie.
Slush terrain doesn't really have that aesthetic.
It's not giving Hallmark.
It's not
nearly
giving
as
Hallmark,
much.
no.
But Hallmark is what you make it, You got to create the moments in the slush.
That's true. That's a good point.
Thank you.
I'll have to call up what's her name? Tracy LeBaire or something. She's in like 100 Hallmark movies.
Naya?
Not familiar.
Yeah,
She's
nope,
in
me neither.
Mean Girls.
Mm.
Lacey Chabert, I think her name is.
Oh, she is in Mean Girls. I actually do know who that is. She plays the girl who was trying to make fetch happen in New
Correct.
Girls.
Yes.
Oh,
But now
okay.
she's in like a million Christmas Hallmark movies.
Okay, give her a call, see if she
Give
has
her a
anything
call.
for the
Yeah,
slush.
right.
In the meantime, someone who tomorrow is like, all right, I'm headed out. I know I need a raincoat. I know I need boots. You would
Yeah,
suggest
boots.
boots. You would
Yeah.
suggest the full attire, big old jacket, gloves, all of
Yeah.
it.
Especially a nice rain jacket over a comfy sweater.
Okay, so be prepared for the
Yeah.
elements tomorrow, everybody. It is going to be cold, wet, rainy, and in some places even a little bit of slush in that wintry mix. All right.
But at least it's dry heading into the weekend.
That's what we like to hear.
That's what we like to hear. But still, cool. But you'll notice the temperatures Saturday morning are in the upper 30s. So refreezing may not be, a big issue for a lot of us. So that is the good news heading into the weekend. And we'll be in the upper 40s Saturday, mostly cloudy. Not a big rain chance, isolated rain chances both days, but, likely staying dry for a lot of us. Staying below average on Sunday, but seeing a little bit more sunshine, right around 50 degrees. But our average high is, around 57, 58. So
yeah, we're still well below average here in early December.
It just, has been a cold end to November, cold start to December, and we're not expecting, any major warm-ups.
And we said this morning that if we have to do an exceptionally below average December, a really cold December, we are owed a warm March.
Correct.
So we're looking ahead to that. We're hoping that we'll get paid back with a little bit of beautiful springtime warmth, but for now, really cold in this early winter season here as far as Hampton Roads goes.
Yeah, certainly. A nice trip to Florida, perhaps in the cards coming up.
Is Hunter trying to tell us something? Can we not count on you in March? You'll be off. You'll be gone. You'll be on the peninsula.
No, if it's warm here, I'll be here.
Okay, good. Okay, good to know.
I'll be chilling by the water.
Yeah.
If it's 75, 80.
Okay, now we're dreaming of warm. We got to stay in the moment here because that is a long way away. I saw you start daydreaming there. Your gaze kind of drifted. You started thinking about Lacey Chabert and Hallmark and warm weather. We do not have that right now.
No.
And I think it's important to point out as well, based on your assessment, based on our entire team's assessment, if you're headed to a bus stop early tomorrow morning, you do not want students to be walking in and then be kind of drying out through the day. So make sure you get all that rain protective gear if you have to wait out at a bus stop tomorrow, especially.
Exactly. Yeah. And even, if you're on one of those, if you're, heading off to the bus stop tomorrow or you're heading off to work and it's more of like a snow, when it's snowing out, you don't have an umbrella because, it's light snow. That's like dropping peacefully.
Not the case here.
But you could start off as snow. Yeah. And then it starts to go to that mix and then eventually all rain, if you're waiting at the bus stop. It could happen rather quickly. So I would say even though it looks like it's snowing out, there may still be some raindrops mixing in, and then eventually we'll be transitioning on all over to rain. So I would say bring that umbrella just in case, even if it looks like it's just snowing outside.
That is great advice. And then we transition into a dry, clear, still cold, but a much nicer weekend. Now, there's something we did talk about as well this morning that I wonder if you would want to touch on. I hear there's a very special moon that will be a part of what's to come. You don't touch on it if you don't want to. Craig was all about it. So the full moon.
It's the last full moon of the year.
Last full moon of the year, and it's the cold moon?
I believe so.
Okay. No, I didn't mean to send you into research here. Huh? You already Naya,
did.
That's on me. Naya, you should have stopped me. You should have flagged me down
is it the cold
before
moon?
We started.
December full moon.
It is the last full moon, and so make sure.
Super cold moon.
The super cold moon. I left off an adjective there, so make sure you get out there and you enjoy the last full moon of the year as well. Once that weather starts to clear out a little bit.
Absolutely.
Hunter, I hesitate to ask this question. Are you superstitious? Is there anything that comes with the full moon? Does it need to be celebrated? Does it need to be, stay in that night? What are we talking?
When it comes to full moons, I'm not that superstitious.
Okay.
But in high school,
I
went through like a phase of being very superstitious.
In general or just with full moons?
Like with knocking on wood.
Oh, okay.
So one time I was driving and I said something in my head. And I pulled over and I knocked on a tree.
Okay. I think I will say at once.
And then from then on, I kept a piece of wood in my car.
All at once, I do believe this is the best story we've ever heard told on Live Impact News. And then also, I don't know if you'll regret sharing that or not.
I know.
But we appreciate your honesty,
Thanks.
as always, and you're doing awesome. So clearly, the knocking on the wood worked in some way.
Exactly.
Because you're here. We're so happy to have you here. And is there anything else that we need to know about the forecast that's to come, or your high school habits and eccentricities?
And of course, that was before I knew I could just do this.
That I don't know if that's legitimate. I don't know if
I do this a lot still.
Okay, okay, good to know. Let's get you out of here.
Naya's laughing at me right
Naya
now.
is really enjoying this. The People's producer, Naya Campbell, has been loving this entire conversation. But we appreciate everything that you've done for us here today, Hunter, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow, I believe.
Perhaps I am doing the evening shows tomorrow.
Okay, then fantastic. Hopefully we will have Hunter in here for our weather impact alert tomorrow. For now, thank you so much for coming in. We
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Make sure you
Thank
knock
you.
on some wood on your way out.
Absolutely.
Just for a little bit of bonus luck. All right, let's reset here in the studio. As always, a spectacular appearance from Hunter Forst here on Live Impact News. It's 1:19 p.m. here, okay? We're almost 20 minutes in, and for a few minutes, President Donald Trump has been speaking at a press conference that features himself and representatives from Rwanda and the Republic of the Congo. Delivering Peace is the banner that is up behind this press conference. So let's go live out to President Trump right now, sitting alongside other world leaders. As we said, let's listen in live to this moment at the podium.
Some very valuable things. They're going to have a lot of money and a lot of success, and I think they're going to get along really well, so I hope so. Thank you very much. Look at them. Look at the way they love each other. Thank you. So I have a lot of confidence in both leaders. We'll keep these commitments. I know they're going to keep them and follow through on the agreement and create a much brighter future for the people of their countries. And they're heroes within their countries because of today. This is a big story. And so much is being written and said. All of the newscasts have it at the top of the list. And they are heroes, and we want to keep it that way. Today, the United States is also signing our own bilateral agreements with the Congo and Rwanda that will unlock new opportunities for the United States to access critical minerals and provide economic benefits for everybody. And we'll be involved. We're sending some of our biggest and greatest companies over to the two countries, and we're going to take out some of the rare earth and take out some of the assets and pay, and everybody's going to make a lot of money. These are just two of the many new agreements related to mineral supplies that my administration has achieved this year, including with Australia, Japan, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, South Korea, and many other countries. With all of these agreements, we're forging new economic security partnerships that protect the interests of America and our friends and partners, and a core feature of my administration's national security strategy, a big part of which is the tariffs. We're taking in trillions of dollars in tariffs. Nobody's ever seen anything like it, and it's given us really great national security. We'll be paying down debt. We'll be making distributions to people, and we're really doing a job. It's amazing. I was with a gentleman, the future king of Saudi Arabia, and you've heard me say this a couple of times, but 2 months ago when I was over there, he said, and actually Qatar is represented today, and UAE is represented, and your leader said the exact same thing, different words, but the exact same thing, that 1 year ago they thought our country was dead, and now our country is the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We have over $18 trillion, that's just in 10 months, pledged or being invested or pledged to be invested in the United States. Think of that, 18 trillion. The highest amount we've ever had is 1.5. Under the Biden administration, they did much less than 1 in 4 years. Think of that. So they did less than 1 trillion in 4 years. We have 18 trillion in 10 months. It's going to be much more than that, too. No other country in history has ever been close, no matter what country you pick. So I want to thank you again, everybody, for your great vision, and I want to thank the people, especially the people that we named. Some of the others that unfortunately we didn't name, we just couldn't do that. But for your vision and for your courage, because it's made it possible to begin healing old wounds and transcending past differences and creating a future where every child of God can live in dignity, prosperity, and peace. And these are two very good men, and they're two potentially very strong countries. I'd like to now invite President Kagame to come up and say a few words. It's Rwanda. And then, if I may, President of DRC, who really is doing a great job. These are two men that are doing a great job. And again, they are so respected because of what they're doing today and the mission that they've really, I think, accomplished. And we'll see how it all works out, but I think it's going to work out really great. They want to get on to other ways of living for their people, and they're great leaders. Thank you very much. Please, Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellency Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, Excellencies, heads of state and government, and former heads of state, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin with some words of thanks. First, to my fellow heads of state and government from Africa, your presence here confirms that these efforts enjoy the broad support necessary to succeed. I also thank Minister of State Kulaifi, representing His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad of Qatar. The role of Qatar has been absolutely central in getting us to this point. But of course, the biggest vote of thanks goes to President Donald Trump. No one was asking President Trump to take up this task. Our region is far from the headlines. But when the President saw the opportunity to contribute to peace, he immediately took it. This conflict has lasted for 30 years. We have seen countless mediations and efforts, but none has succeeded in resolving the underlying issues. President Trump introduced a new and effective dynamism that created the space for breakthroughs. His approach is even-handed, never taking sides. He orients us toward the future, not the past, emphasizing that the dividend of peace is prosperity and investment, including from the United States. More importantly, President Trump's approach is pragmatic. The process has not become an end in itself. All of these elements filter down to his dedicated team, and here I want to single out Secretary Rubio and Masad Boulos for special appreciation. would not be here today without their efforts. And as a result, we have the clearest and most viable path forward that we have ever had. These accords provide everything needed to end this conflict once and for all. If this agreement falters and things do not work out as they are supposed to, the responsibility will not lie with President Trump, but with ourselves. It's up to us in Africa, working with our partners to consolidate and expand this peace. There will be ups and downs on the road ahead. There is no doubt about it. Rwanda, I know, will not be found wanting. I can assure you of that. Our only objective is and has always been for our country to be safe and secure after having endured so much tragedy. We now only want to look forward in confident expectation of a prosperous and stable future. Mr. President, Excellencies, I thank you for your kind attention.
Mr. the President of the United States, Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, dear members of the delegations, distinguished guests, as we have just placed our signatures at the bottom of the joint declaration enshrining the Washington agreements for peace and prosperity, I do feel, on behalf of the people of Congo, a deep gratitude and clear hope. First of all, I would like to express quite solemnly our deep thanks to the President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump. I would like to thank his administration and also wish to thank the American people for the critical role that they played as doing for the rapprochement, the closening between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. To these thanks, I also bring in all of our regional partners and our international partners who, thanks to their commitment and engagement, have consistently made this critical moment possible in the road to peace. First and foremost, we have Sheikh Yanim bin Ahmad Adani. We have President João Manuel Lourenço Gonçalves, who is the President of Angola and the acting President of the African Union. And we also have the former President of the Republic of Kenya, my brother, Uhuru Kenyatta, who I can see here in the room. These two great Africans who are at the beginning, who started the Rwanda and the
So again, coming out of an event with President Donald Trump and leaders from Rwanda and the Republic of the Congo, you also heard a mention of Kenya. Kenyan officials met with Secretary of State Marco Rubio earlier today. We actually have a recording of that press conference as well. So we will try to get to that later on in the stream, in addition to what we just showed you from the Delivering Peace conference. Now, the reason we came out of that particular conference is because House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is speaking at the podium right now, and so we want to try to listen in on some of his press conference live. We apologize for cutting out of that particular event early, but we want to try to listen in on some of what Hakeem Jeffries has to say here live on Impact News. So let's go out to Washington, D.C. right now.
$6 billion from SNAP, which Republicans did in their one big ugly bill. They're going to cause everyday Americans to go hungry. We're talking about 42 million people. 16 million children who are going to be hurt by what Republicans did in their one big ugly bill. 8 million older Americans and over 1 million veterans who rely on SNAP. And so the adverse impact, the harm that Republicans have done to the American people, actually, we're just scratching the surface in terms of the hurt that everyday Americans will experience. And then we have the ongoing Trump tariffs, which of course in real time are increasing costs on the American people by thousands of dollars per year. And the American people know it in terms of what they're paying now for groceries and for goods. The American people are concerned about the fact that housing is totally out of control, healthcare is totally out of control, childcare is totally out of control, and Republicans have no plan to deal with any of it. Donald Trump is fighting with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is fighting with the House Republican Conference. Corey Mills is fighting with Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace is fighting with Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is fighting with Elise Stefanik. Elise Stefanik is fighting with Lisa McClain. The whole thing is a mess. The 119th Congress has turned into a bad episode of Republicans Gone Wild. And here's the problem. Republicans are so busy fighting each other, they can't be bothered to fight for the American people. Big difference between us and them. House Democrats are going to continue to fight for you to drive down the high cost of living and to fix our broken healthcare system. Yep, you got it.
Okay. Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso got his name for Rep. Velasquez's spot for next Congress. He's a Brooklyn guy, you're a Brooklyn guy. Do you talk to him yet? And at what point do you start really focusing on 2026?
Yeah, I have not had a conversation with Borough President Reynoso. I did note with great interest that he decided to jump in the race. He's a well-respected public servant. I have no plans to get involved in the 7th Congressional District race at this time or perhaps at any time.
Two-pronged here. One, are we hearing on the possibility that, quite frankly, nothing is going to be done on health care? I mean, is that, if so, are you basically, is this whole scenario proving you true from shutdown? And two, if there was a vote of no confidence in Johnson, which is certainly much more of a live wire than it was.
Okay, jumping around quite a bit today, a lot of live events. We are going to head out to Washington, D.C., where Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel have just taken the podium for a press conference. Let's listen in.
Good afternoon. As you all know now, early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. I'm going to let our U.S. Attorney discuss that shortly. This was the work of multiple agencies working together. This morning's operation was carried out safely and successfully. We know that there are so many issues when you're issuing search warrants. dangerous things can happen, and this was carried out safely and securely thanks to all of the people standing around me. They have worked tirelessly on this. Today's arrest happened because the Trump administration has made this case a priority. The total lack of movement on this case in our nation's capital undermined the public trust of our enforcement agencies. This cold case languished for 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI. The FBI, along with U.S. Attorney Pirro and all of our prosecutors, have worked tirelessly for months, sifting through evidence that had been sitting at the FBI with the Biden administration for 4 long years. Let me be clear, there was no new tip, there was no new witness, just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work, working as a team along with ATF, Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department, and of course, the FBI. We are working every day to restore the public's trust. We hope that today is a significant step towards that progress. We'll share more information when we can and when it unfolds. I cannot stress enough how hard Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino have worked for months to make our nation's capital safer and to make our country safer. I'd like to introduce now Director Patel.
Thank you, General. When you attack American citizens, when you attack our institutions of legislation, when you attack our nation's capital, you attack the very being of our way of life. And this FBI and this Department of Justice stand here to tell you that we will always refute it and combat it. We will provide the safest country the nation has ever seen under President Trump's leadership here. And that's what we did here today with great resolve on a case of massive public importance, as it should be. An individual who is now alleged to have placed multiple explosive devices to blow up multiple people and multiple officials, innocent civilians, is now arrested thanks to the brave men and women of the FBI and the interagency. I want to take a moment to thank the Metropolitan Police Department, the United States Capitol Police, our brave prosecutors, the Department of Justice, and our leader, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro, whose relentless work on this case made this possible. As the Attorney General said, we did not discover any new information. What we did, an investigation spearheaded by the Deputy Director and the ADIC of our Washington field office, brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, sifted through all the data, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do. As a result of that, we generated numerous investigative leads, executed multiple legal process with our U.S. attorney partners, and came to this conclusion today. And that is why we were able to safely secure this individual into custody. Remember, we are dealing with an individual who is alleged to have made bombs. We cannot do this sort of takedown in haste because it endangers the lives of law enforcement. And this FBI will never allow the lives of law enforcement and our prosecutors to be put in jeopardy. This execution was flawless in terms of teamwork, resilience, and just a good old-fashioned way of police getting the job done. When you let good cops be cops, this is what happens. I'm eternally grateful to the team behind me, to the leadership at the FBI who made this possible. But I do want to highlight when I introduce the deputy, he made this case and so many others, including Summer Heat, his priority to come in here and solve it for the American people. And today, I'm proud to stand here before you and say, we solved it. He will have his day in court. The American public and the world will learn even more information through the legal process. As we have committed under this Attorney General, we are the most transparent law enforcement operation in U.S. history, but we are also going to make sure accountability is delivered to its fullest extent, and that happens in the courts of law with our U.S. attorneys and our prosecutors. So we will divulge information when it is prudent and constitutionally permissible, while upholding the safeguards of this case to make sure that the people that this individual intended to victimize get the accountability they deserve, and most importantly, to deliver on President Trump's promise to secure our nation's capital and the rest of the cities in this country to make sure that Americans are allowed to go out free and securely in their neighborhoods, and that people around the world are allowed to visit our nation's capital, and they now have that trust thanks to the leadership of the FBI, the Washington Field Office, and I'm honored now to introduce to you Deputy Director Bongino, who spearheaded this investigation.
Thank you all for being here for this critical investigation we've been working on for a very long time. We deeply appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words, Attorney General and Director. I appreciate it. Folks, this is what it's like when you work for a president who tells you to go get the bad guys and stop focusing on other extraneous things not related to law enforcement. This is what happens. We had a great team. I know it's said a lot in this business. It was a team effort. It becomes cliche, but cliches are useful for a reason because they matter. And this was a team effort. The director and the attorney general emphasized that it was not a new public tip this came from. This was our internal work at the FBI. And I want to just really express my sincere gratitude to this attorney general and this president for allowing us the latitude. I spoke with Ms. Bondi very early when we, maybe day 2, and I said, we're going to get this guy. And she said, yes, you are. And we did. I want to also thank, he's not here, but Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who we deal with often as well, who could not have been more supportive. Whatever process we need, Judge Janine, Todd, and Attorney General Bondi, they were there. All you had to do, they were a phone call away. And their team was amazing. We actually never had to make that phone call because they were always responsive. Thank you, Judge, as well. You were amazing. Folks, you're not going to walk into our capital city, put down 2 explosive devices, and walk off in the sunset. Not going to happen. We were going to track this person to the end of the earth. There was no way he was getting away. Well, we didn't have to track him to the end of the earth. It wound up in Woodbridge, Virginia. I want to thank the team. They were amazing. They never let this go. Again, Attorney General Bondi, for your incredible support. Director Patel, Judge, I know they're giving me a lot of unnecessary credit, but make no mistake, they were intimately involved in this and were there for all of those supportive mechanisms, and I deeply appreciate it. The man whose team did the work is the Assistant Director in charge of our Washington Field Office, Darren Cox. Darren's got some comments, and Darren has some more details on the case he can provide. So thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Darren Cox. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the Washington Field Office. Today's arrest of the alleged D.C. pipe bomber is a momentous day for the American public, for the FBI, for our Joint Terrorism Task Force, or the JTTF, and our partners, the U.S. Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department, and ATF. We've also had a large number of other federal, state, and local departments that have worked on this investigation. And last but not least, the U.S. Attorney's Office. We all worked hand in hand to solve this investigation. This has been a long week in D.C. After the terrorist attack last week, the grit and determination of the FBI and our law enforcement partners is an example to the American public of what cooperation, partnership, and selfless service can accomplish. The amount of effort the FBI and our partners devoted to identifying the pipe bomber cannot be overstated. It is the resolve and determination of our investigators that ultimately led to the identification and the arrest of this suspect. We all know pipe bombs are dangerous, not because of the potential loss of life, damage to property, or injury that they can cause, but also because they are tools that terrorize our community. Fortunately, these bombs did not explode, although they certainly could have. But make no mistake, the alleged pipe bomber did terrorize our community. Today's actions underscore the long memory and the long reach of the FBI and our partners. I know some people had given up on finding the perpetrator, but not the FBI and not our partners. We do not forget, we do not give up, and we do not relent. Though it had been nearly 5 years, our team continued to churn through massive amounts of data and tips that we used to identify this suspect. I want to thank Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino for their leadership and for providing us the resources and the personnel to reevaluate all of the data that we had. We dove into more than 3 million lines of data to come up with this suspect. Director Patel, Deputy Director Bongino, thank you for your support, thank you for your passion, and thank you for your investment in this investigation. From me, on behalf of the investigators, the Washington Field Office, and all of our partners, thank you. I'd also like to thank Judge Pirro. Judge, your team and you are absolutely amazing. You're the type of prosecutors and U.S. attorney that all of the investigators across the country want to work with. They're hard-nosed and they're aggressive, and thank you for that. I'd also like to thank the American public for providing tips and leads, not just on this case, but every day on cases across the country that are being solved by law enforcement. And finally, I want to commend all of the members of the Washington Field Office, and most specifically, the investigative team. Their diligence and persistence led to this arrest today, and they are absolutely, totally dedicated not only to this case, but every case they work. So thank you, Washington Field Office. Last, I will say our work is not done. The FBI will continue to pursue every lead and use every resource that we have to ensure that the D.C. pipe bomber is brought to justice. Thank you.
You keep hearing the words partnership and team, and that's what we are. And we could not do this without our U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro. Jeanine, from day one, has worked tirelessly for our country and for our nation's capital. It's my honor to introduce my friend, U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro.
Thank you very much, Attorney General. And you have been listening to a lot of thank yous and a lot of gratitude. The reason that we're thanking each other to the extent that we are today is because we have seen in this case an incredible collaboration around the clock, in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter. We call each other, we make contact, they need a warrant, they need something, someone wants legal advice. These are the men and women who never give it up. You hear about government employees, but I don't know if you really realize what it is that they do. They are incredible, and this case is big. 4 years, 10 months, and 28 days ago, an individual placed a bomb in the vicinity of both the RNC and the DNC. And for that amount of time, that individual evaded accountability. Today, as a result of the cumulative efforts of the men and women in the FBI and the police department and the Department of Justice, we are finally able to make an arrest of an individual by the name of Brian Cole. As the Attorney General has indicated, he is arrested for transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce, as well as the attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials. You know, folks, this case involved millions of pieces of data. And it is a huge win because it was like finding a needle in a haystack. So much of this evidence was very specific, but a lot of it was also very general. For example, there were 233,000 black end caps of the type that were used in this case. I want you to think about the fact that the FBI had to go through the sale of every one of them to try to find commonality with an individual.
Okay, back here in the Live Impact News studio. The main purpose of that press conference, the announcement that early this morning, Brian Cole Jr., a Virginia man, was arrested for placing pipe bombs on January 5th, 2021, outside of both the RNC and the DNC. He has now been arrested for been arrested for the allegation of committing these crimes, and that was just announced by Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel in that press conference. Now, we've come out of that press conference early because Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has just taken the podium. This is especially newsworthy right now. Minnesota is in the midst of the headlines as President Donald Trump has especially recently made multiple xenophobic comments about the Somali community that is in Minnesota. And ICE is now purported to be headed to Minnesota, to be in Minnesota as we speak, with the alleged goal of targeting undocumented Somali immigrants, especially in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Now, President Donald Trump has also personally attacked Governor Tim Walz in recent days as well. And so now Governor Walz is at the podium, so we want to go live out to Minnesota and listen in to Governor Walz. Let's head out to Minnesota right now.
We acknowledge that this is serious, it needs to stop, it is stopping people from continuing to go to prison. I think the good news for Minnesotans is that 90-day pauses when the third-party audits are done, we will have a better picture than we've ever had, which I think is really good.
But have you asked the question? We did hear from budget officials that it is spending, it's in there.
The audits are not done yet. The audits are happening. They're doing the forensic audits outside of this. These are independent folks, not in state government that are doing it. When that comes back, we will
Is there a timeline on that? When?
Yeah, I think it was 90 days. I don't know, is that correct, Commissioner? Yeah, so it should be end of January, I believe.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We are in the president. Pardon me?
Sorry, we say end of January.
When we get the audits back?
And we'll know at that point how many audits.
I think we'll have a better, yes, I think we'll have a better, certainly in those 14 programs. And the thing that we've done is through executive action and through what we'll ask the legislature to do. When these programs were created, that's what's really important, because the parameters around them at that point in time, we'll have a better idea to know, and we'll be able to, in the session, be able to put forward.
We heard in the presentation the federal impact wasn't as bad as it could have been. Do you have a plan to address the healthcare costs and the long-term care stuff that's
I think it's a good question. And look, let's be very clear on this. The answer was, we don't know yet. Now, if they don't do the subsidies, if they roll back Medicaid, if they remove the income tax and in this fever dream place or whatever, we yet don't know. And I think the important thing is Congress, after the longest shutdown, Congress led by a Republican president or Republican House, Republican Senate, the longest shutdown, simply kicked the can down the road. So those negative impacts I think you're seeing in this, and you heard from Dr. Becker, those impacts yet are still yet to be seen, hard to measure. But in answer to your question, we did not go as deeply as I felt we needed to in my budget, and this is one role you can do that. There was a budget coming out of House Republicans and a budget coming out of me. My cuts were much deeper. And I think this forecast shows you what we compromised on tackle part of it. I think you can expect me to come back again asking for those cuts to be made to stabilize, especially in that waiver program and in some of the costs.
Governor, the U.S. House Oversight Committee sent a letter to you yesterday alleging and maybe accusing you of having known about fraud as it was going on in state programs. Do you care to respond to that? Is that accusation fair?
Yeah. Dog bites man's story. I spent 8 hours there, if you recall, and nothing came out of that. I asked them to give me data. I think the most ineffective Congress in history that Representative Comer needs something to do. I will gladly go. I think in the same mystic he threatened former President Obama and others. Look, I welcome to talk to him. We handled this. I said, whether this is COVID, whether it's George Floyd, whether it's daily budget, whether it's 7 years of balanced budget, whether it's making Minnesota a great state, I'll take responsibility for fixing these things. But these are folks that just point out problems. These are folks that, again, brought 3 governors in front of them on immigration. You heard that the DHS secretary yesterday is complaining with a made-up number that 50% of our Somali neighbors are here on fraudulent visas, and that's my fault. You would think if you're the Secretary of Homeland Security that you would know the state has nothing to do with the issuing of visa, that it's the federal government. So I will gladly comply with what they do. I would fully expect them not to do what Americans are asking them to do, reduce costs, do your job that you need to do in getting us a budget, invest in research. But that's not what we're getting out of them. This is just more distracting. This is what you do. This is what President Trump, the reason President Trump is throwing racial slurs out, the reason he's throwing horrific slurs at me on Thanksgiving Eve, what the Ilhan Omar is because he's failing on every front. It's because it's collapsing around him. And so we'll do our best to keep looking out for Minnesota.
A quick question about when you knew or became aware of these programs.
We can put about anything on it. Yes, you know that.
Come up with these forecasts of most of the programs that were exploiting for housing programs, autism. That didn't raise any alarm.
These are new programs, a lot of them. Some happened ahead of time. And I think for all of us, there have been these incidents, whether it's in Medicaid, Medicare, whatever it would be. And as soon as they're brought forward, we address them. We have commissioners that deal with them each of that. We have the professionals who deal with them in each of it. When we bring them forward and we believe it's happened, we refer them to the BCA, who then refers them for prosecution. I can tell you one thing is these are programs I care deeply about. These are programs that I have a track record of doing this, being very fiscally responsible and fiscally conservative. I can assure you that there is no one angrier about this than me, because I know what the Republican response is to cut these programs. Just cut them in their entirety, and then we won't have to worry about that. So rest assured, as soon as I find out about this, and if it were up to me when we were talking about doubling penalties or whatever, fine by me. You put these people along the way as long as you want. We'll be there. We'll be there to help.
Governor Walz, what have you learned about the immigration enforcement operation underway in the state? Does the state have any information on how many people may have been detained? Do you have any concerns about the reports about how agents are conducting business? And looking ahead, what worries you about the shape this effort could take in the days that we've been in?
Everything worries me about the way this immigration reform is happening. Masked folks showing up, not indicating who they are. And I want to thank the leaders, and I want to thank Chief O'Hare and others who made note of this. Randomly terrorizing people. And Donald Trump made it clear. If there's no other story in Minnesota, the President of the United States called Minnesotans garbage and hellhole. These are doctors, these are teachers, these are entrepreneurs, these are children, without any evidence whatsoever. And so I worry deeply about this. We're getting no communication. And I want to be clear. The folks they bring in here aren't the folks we normally work with. Our law enforcement, State Patrol, BCA, they have working relationships with them. These folks come in and do it and cause massive chaos. And then when Minnesotans step up and express their First Amendment rights, we have to send our people in, and they're confused on why St. Paul Police, Minneapolis Police, State Patrol is showing up on this, because we have no idea, and our responsibility is to make sure that they're safe. So I have to tell you, this is absolutely unprecedented. What I will tell you is it appears very little is being done. They bring these folks in from Texas or somewhere like that. I'm sure they're too cold to get out of their cars to harass people. But they're doing it in New Orleans. It's all about show. It's not about. They demonized an entire group, potentially 60,000 people, based on racial profiling. There are only about 300 people with the protective status that were here. So mothers, fathers, college students, home on Thanksgiving. At the same time, we give a pardon to one of the biggest drug importers to the United States and the ex-Honduran president. And when it comes to fraud, by the way, we should be prosecuting these people in Minnesota. Because you know what I fear about? Pardons from this guy. One of the biggest frauds, billions of dollars committed on this. A jury in America sentenced that guy to 40 years in prison. He served 12 days and Donald Trump gave him a full pardon. So if you're concerned about fraud, and if Republican friends come up here and start talking, they need to be asked, are you okay with that pardon? Are you okay with the president calling our neighbors garbage? Are you okay with him referring to Minnesota as a hellhole, unfactually untrue? This creates danger. And I'll tell you what, in my time on this, I've never seen this before. People driving by my house and using the R word in front of people. This is shameful. And I have yet to see an elected official, a Republican elected official, say, you're right, that's shameful. He should not say it. So look, I'm worried. We know how these things go. They start with taunts, they turn to violence. So deeply concerned. The good news here in Minnesota is a budget that works, smart budgeting over the last few years that led us to a solid position. We will tackle crime, whether it's drug crime, whether it's fraud crime, and we will do it based on the individual who commits it, not a generalization to a group of people. And in spite of the headwinds we're up against, Minnesota ranks economically, economic growth, happiness, number of people insured, education levels, near the very top. So I'll tell you what, I have no interest in having this state look like Oklahoma or Mississippi. And if folks are going to commit crimes here, thinking because our generous spirit and our programs that we have is going to give them some kind of cover, they are sadly mistaken. So grateful to all the folks who work on this. Look forward to putting out a budget here shortly. Look forward to us moving into another legislative session. And as you heard the commissioner say, we've got time to do this. And I'm going to thank the folks who have been part of this again. One of the few states that budgets over the horizon. Because if we did it like other states, the other thing you'd be hearing is we have a $2.5 billion surplus and everything's fine. That's lazy. It's not the way to do it. So adding in inflation, going over the horizon, gives us the time to budget without disrupting people's lives or cutting the programs.
Governor.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, let's go over a couple of things mentioned in that press conference. A couple of things revolving around this increasingly headline-making situation in Minnesota. First of all, fraud in public programs in the state. There are recent cases of fraud in public programs in the state of Minnesota. That includes what is known as the Feeding Our Future scandal, which federal prosecutors say was the country's largest COVID-19 related fraud case. It involved a program meant to feed children during the pandemic, where the defendants were accused of fraudulently claiming to be feeding millions of meals to children, while the alleged group was committing fraud with those funds instead. The alleged ringleader was white. Many of the defendants were Somalis, most of them U.S. citizens. So let's transition from that into talking about the ongoing situation with President Donald Trump attacking the Somali population in the United States and in Minnesota with his rhetoric, oftentimes xenophobic rhetoric from President Donald Trump directed towards Somali populations. Let's first do this. Let's do some facts here from PBS on that community and that population of people. An estimated 260,000 people of Somali descent in the United States. In Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota, about 84,000. 58% of those of Somali descent in Minnesota were born right here in the United States. 87% of foreign-born Somalis are naturalized United States citizens right here in America. Now, we do know, as was stated once again, that ICE is allegedly in Minnesota enforcing immigration laws with a focus on undocumented Somali immigrants. We also want to get back to the comments that were made by President Donald Trump. So we're going to listen to comments from earlier in the week from President Donald Trump. Then we will have comments from Representative Ilhan Omar, a representative who represents a large Somali population in Minnesota, and then follow-up comments from President Donald Trump as well. So we've got quite a few sound bites coming up here. Bear with us as we try to flesh out this story here on Live Impact News after hearing from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Let's first listen to President Donald Trump earlier this week at his cabinet meeting.
Honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
Comments from President Donald Trump once again from earlier in the week. Now, we apologize for the foul language included in those comments. Let's move on to Minnesota elected officials. We would like to note that we heard earlier from the mayors of both Minneapolis and St. Paul who expressed support for the Somali communities in their cities, who expressed the importance of those communities in their cities. We also heard from Representative Ilhan Omar, again, a member of the House of Representatives from Minnesota who represents a large Somali community in her district and someone who has been the subject of attacks from President Donald Trump in the past as well. So let's listen to those comments posted on her Twitter just recently.
Racist, a bigot, xenophobic, and Islamophobic. We know that he called African nations a shithole in his first administration. We know that when he came down that escalator, he said he was going to stop Muslim immigration into this country. And so it is not surprising that he is going after black immigrants in this country. And it's certainly not surprising that he's choosing a black immigrant community that is also Muslim. But what I would like to say is that most of us are citizens. On our passport, it says we are nationals of this country. We love that Minnesota has welcomed us. Many of us have not been settled in Minnesota. We chose it as a home because the Minnesota people and the state is beautiful and very welcoming. And we are going to be here regardless of what the president has to say.
Again, apologies for any language in those comments. Representative Omar speaking on behalf of the people she represents in the Somali community in Minnesota and speaking on President Donald Trump's comments, calling them racist and xenophobic. Let's do another clip of President Donald Trump's comments from later on in the week. Let's go ahead and play those now.
Thank you. The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief.
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also
I
saying
wouldn't be proud to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, you know, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Waltz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with, go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution. All she does is complain about this country. Without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now. So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon, I hope. But what Somalia, what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable. And a lot of it starts with the governor. A lot of it starts with Barack Hussein Obama, because that's when people started coming in. And you have to have people come in that are going to love our country, cherish our country. They want to kiss our country goodnight. They talk about our country. We want them to pray for our country. This is not the people living in Minnesota. And she's a disaster. She should not be, and her friends shouldn't be allowed. Frankly, they shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople, okay? They shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople because they don't represent the interests of our country. Anybody else?
Again, President Donald Trump speaking about Minnesota, the Somalian community in Minnesota. He was talking about Representative Omar at the end of his monologue there. We heard from Representative Omar just before we went to his comments. She labeled his rhetoric xenophobic and racist. Of course, she is, in fact, a congressperson, despite what President Trump said at the end of his answer there. He also mentioned Governor Walz, who we heard from live at the very beginning of our discussion of this issue. Governor Walz, of course, was the vice presidential candidate on the Democratic ticket with Vice President Harris earlier this year in November last year, who ran against President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. So Vice President Harris chose Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. He was a part of that campaign against President Trump and now Vice President J.D. Vance. We also had a question that led into that answer about Jacob Frey. Jacob Frey is the mayor of Minneapolis. We referenced Jacob Frey earlier in this discussion when we talked about his press conference from earlier this week, where he expressed support for the Somali community in his city and the importance, the significance of the Somali community in his city and the critical role that they play in the community that he represents. So trying to wrap this all up, trying to put a bow on it, I apologize if any of my reporting here is scattered. We're trying to make sure we include every piece of information that we can. We want to, one more point of context, because Governor Walz spoke about a number of different things in his press conference. He mentioned President Trump's pardon of former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez. We spoke about that quite a bit earlier this week. President Trump pardoning former Honduran President Hernandez after Hernandez was convicted in the United States in 2024 for conspiring to traffic more than 400 tons of cocaine and weapons charges. So the final bit of context for this issue, and it's something that we will, of course, continue to report on as it progresses. If there are any further updates or press conferences in regards to these issues, whether it's from elected officials in Minnesota or President Trump himself, it's something that, of course, is still developing, as there has been, again, a back and forth between elected officials and President Trump so far this week. And again, ICE officials reportedly, allegedly in Minnesota, as we speak, conducting immigration enforcement. So, okay, let's shift gears here a little bit. Let's do a brief reset. It's 2:16 p.m. It has been an incredibly busy Thursday. We've had just a number of live events already. We tried to give you a full-scale recap of everything happening with the story in Minnesota that we just talked about. Let's reset for a moment. We're going to now go to a story that has national and local implications. It's something that we recorded earlier today, a press conference that happened earlier today, and it's actually a call for bipartisanship from members of the House of Representatives, and that includes 2nd District Representative Jen Kiggans from right here in Hampton Roads. I believe it is 20 elected Democratic officials and 15 elected Republican officials, though that is clarified in the comments that we're about to play, who are coming together in order to propose a health care plan that they think would work for all Americans and that would help the millions of Americans would prevent the millions of Americans from losing their health care who rely on Affordable Care Act subsidies that are set to expire at the end of December. So let's go out to this bipartisan effort in Washington, D.C., led by a number of elected officials, including Representative Jen Kiggans, who is one of our elected officials right here in Hampton Roads. Let's listen into that press conference from earlier today on a health care plan.
Dude, I think you're very tall, man.
That's not said to me very well.
Squeeze down. Come on, guys. You can make a couple rows.
Keep coming in.
Maggie will get lost down there. Come on. So much fun, Maggie. Okay. Come on. You can come down. Okay. And by the way, the list is up here, guys, so just ask your next person. No, we're just going to go to the next person. Okay, you guys ready? Sounds good. First, thank you so much for being here this morning. We're very grateful. I want to thank all the members of both parties who are here. I especially want to thank Jen Higgins, who's been a phenomenal partner helping lead us, and thank you so much, Jen. In the last month, families have seen their health insurance premiums surge as they've shopped for insurance during open enrollment because enhanced premium tax credits are set to expire, as we all know, at the end of the year. In fact, because of this, for millions of families on the ACA, their health premiums will rise an average of 26% next year. In Jersey, where we live, it could be even rougher with a 175% increase. That's $20,000 for a family of four. And that's why we're all here together to try to solve this problem, do something about it, and avoid a massive new tax on hardworking families. So this bipartisan group came together, has been working for weeks, and I know Jen and I are very grateful for everybody's incredible leadership and all the time they've put in, talking not just to each other, but with the groups of senators and putting aside the BS and delivering real solutions for people. Lots of Zooms and lots of calls, and we finally produced something called Common Ground 2025. You'll see it in the giant easel over there. It's backed by 35 House Democrats and Republicans and will actually help make health care more affordable for American families. For us, this is all about working together to find common ground for the American people and to make life more affordable for them. The framework includes an extension of health insurance premium savings for American families with targeted modifications to help ensure families can still get the help they need. I think you all have copies of it, of the plan. If you don't, we'll make sure, just raise your hand, we'll make sure you get one. It's paid for and takes steps to ensure we root out fraud. We're calling for a vote by December 18th in both chambers of Congress to get something done before premiums rise in January. As part of our plan, we'll also work together on a menu of longer-term reforms to help families continue to save on their premiums. Having access to health care can literally mean the difference, as you know, between life and death. The House and Senate must work together to see this through. Time is ticking. Time's not on our side. But we know that if we work together, and we'll sit down with anybody, the president, our leadership, anybody you want, we'll sit down with to get something done. Because if we work together and lower costs, we know that our families' lives will be better, they'll be healthier, and we'll deliver for the country, and our best days will be ahead. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Jen, and thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Well, good morning to all of you. Thank you for taking time to be with us, and a special thank you to my colleagues who we share the stage with today. I'm Congresswoman Jen Higgins, and I proudly represent Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. What you see before you are a bipartisan group of congressmen and women who have come together to find a solution to a problem that all Americans care about, health care. We did what we said we would do after the 43-day government shutdown. We came together to discuss health care reform and the looming expiration of ACA enhanced premium tax credits. The group on this stage is sincere in our desire to ensure Americans have affordable health care coverage. As a geriatric nurse practitioner, co-chair of the Nursing Caucus, and one of the 2 nurse practitioners in Congress, it's an issue that I personally and professionally care about, and is why I'm here with my colleagues to impress upon our Republican and Democrat House and Senate leadership that we can find bipartisan solutions to provide affordable health care for the people who need it the most. Although we may have different opinions over the long-term solutions for reforming marketplace health care, or if there are even better and cheaper options for publicly available health insurance, we agree on the many aspects of the short-term solutions and are here today to share those with all of you. Although many bills have appeared to offer similar ideas, we wanted to propose more of a bipartisan framework to make it clear to the House and Senate leadership that defined ideas do exist, but that both sides of the aisle support. And you'll see on our letter that we have 15 Republicans and 20 Democrats, and I'm sure we could find more when we try harder. We stand here today facing an end-of-the-year expiration of the enhanced premium tax credits already in place, and recognize that the clock is ticking and the deadline is looming, and that implementing effective solutions will take time. The ACA is what is before us. I have 40,000 people in my district who rely on this health care, and doing nothing to prevent a spike in their premiums is wrong, especially after all the positive work we've tried to do with Working Families Tax Plan to address everyday affordability issues. With this deadline in front of us, we have broken the bipartisan framework we present today into 2 necessary steps and conveniently a 2-year process. And you have your page in front of you, so I'll spare all the details, but just know in summary, year 1 or step 1 is extension of the ACA enhanced premium tax credits, including things like income caps, some guardrails for waste, fraud, and abuse issues, PBM reform. Year 2 or step 2 would be continued reforms as agreed upon in the House and Senate by this summer, which would be before the midterm election season, including some options like physician fee schedule increases, hospital billing transparency, elimination of $0 premiums with provisions for need-based hardship support, implementation of HSA accounts based on the Cassidy bill, which would eventually eliminate the need, hopefully, for premium tax credits, and including the Give Kids a Chance Act to accelerate pediatric cancer treatments and expand access to life-saving therapies for children battling rare diseases. In closing, I offer the Oxford Language Dictionary of Compromise, an agreement or settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side making concessions. It's a word that we don't use often in the halls of Congress, but it's something the American people are craving and anxiously waiting for us to demonstrate that we understand and aren't afraid to use as a tool to get things done for them, the people we represent and serve. Lastly, thank you to my colleagues who have agreed to work on an issue near and dear to my heart, and I look forward to continuing to work together to ensure all Americans have the health care they deserve and can afford. Thank you very much, and with that, I'd like Susie Lee to come speak.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jen. All right, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I just want to say 2 things. First of all, with the tax credits expiring, healthcare is going to become unaffordable for millions of Americans. And they're going to make the risky choice that my parents had to make when my father lost his job when he was 58. They had pre-existing conditions. It was before the ACA. And they made the decision to not have health insurance. They just couldn't afford it. There are going to be many senior couples, age 60, who are going to see their health insurance go up to $33,000. It's just not sustainable. They're going to make the risky decision to go without health insurance, and that means we're all going to pay higher premiums. These premium tax credits have worked to make healthcare affordable for millions of Americans. We know that there are reforms that need to be made, and that's what this group is about. It's basically us deciding that we're going to come together, we're going to work. It's not a red issue, it's not a blue issue. It's an issue about making sure people have access to health care. And that's why I'm so proud to stand with all these members who are really committed to finding a solution. Not everyone's going to like our framework, but it is something that we're committed to make sure that we work together, because preserving affordable health care is important to each and every one of our constituents. Thank you. Juan Siscomani is next.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and welcome to our message here this morning. I want to thank my colleagues for being here, and Representative Gottheimer and Kiggins for leading the charge on this. Rising costs across the board have already put pressure on Americans all across the country.
All right, we certainly do not mean to cut off the representative. We tried to get back into the studio before he started, but we have other things to get to. We heard from 2nd District Representative Jen Kiggins, a part of that coalition to attempt to help with millions of Americans preserving their health care as the deadline for those Affordable Care Act tax credits continues to loom at the end of December. Republicans and Democrats now coming together based on that press conference to try and find a solution to this problem and protect millions of Americans' health care. You heard, not a red issue, not a blue issue. And so that's something we'll continue to monitor, and we were able to hear from 2nd District Representative right here in Hampton Roads, Jen Kiggins. All right, speaking of elected officials right here in Virginia, Senator Mark Warner had his media availability with Virginia Press earlier today. We want to listen in on some of that press conference. Let's go ahead and go to the senator now.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm sorry I'm running a little bit late today. Lots going on. I think I'd start with what's kind of breaking news today, the Inspector General's report on Secretary Hegseth's irresponsible use of signal phones on the strike that took place against Yemen a number of months back. again, to refresh everybody's memory that may not have followed bits and pieces of this, we had aircraft carrier and other entities in the Eastern Mediterranean, many of them, frankly, home ported in Norfolk. We were striking against the Houthis in Yemen, and Secretary Hegseth gave out all of this information on an unsecure line using his private phone that included not only security officials but family members. I was outraged in the spring, called for an investigation. I'd heard from sailors' families in Norfolk who were frankly pissed off that their sons and daughters could have been put in harm's way. And, again, so typical of this former Fox broadcaster, he tried to avoid responsibility or, dance around it. Well, the Inspector General's come out and said the following conclusions. One, this was clearly classified information. Two, while the Secretary of Defense has the ability to declassify information, he made no indication at that time, or frankly even afterwards, that he went through any kind of declassification process. Again, somewhat similar to President Trump, that he must have imagined it, and somehow that makes it okay. But his initial comments that there was nothing classified here, clearly 100% wrong. It was classified. He didn't go through the formal process of declassification, and I think it was an embarrassment. And then, most importantly, his actions by doing this kind of unsecure call and including family members and others put our sailors in harm's way. And again, I called for the Secretary's removal in the spring. I think the Inspector General's report validates that even more. I'm going to be anxious to get back to Hampton Roads and hear from the sailors and their families what they think about this. But that's not where the story ends. We saw, through the summer, uniformed military, the general in charge of the NSA, the general in charge of the Defense Intelligence Agency fired for political reasons. We saw, the Secretary bring all of the military command to Quantico and lecture them on how to perform. And then we've seen the next crisis, and this is the bombing of the boats in the Caribbean. Again, from the Secretary, we've had 2 or 3 different stories. At first, he thumped his chest and said it was great that he watched this whole bombing incident take place. This was the initial bombing on September 2nd, where 12 people were on the boat. It came out subsequently that while he offered a order to kill them all, we don't know, was that verbal, was it written, changed and said, no foul here, no second strike, then changed his position and said, well, there was a second strike, but it was ordered by Admiral Bradley, who I will be meeting with today to try to get to the bottom of it. So we're clear. Are we putting, again, sailors in potentially legal jeopardy because the military rules of conflict and international law, you don't blow up people that are no longer combatants, even if you accept the fact that there could have been drugs on the boat. If they are in the water swimming, how are they still combatants? I'm going to try to press Admiral Bradley on that this afternoon. And I think what is really the rub here is that, as opposed to being this big tough guy that says the buck stops with me, whenever there's controversy, he tries to pawn it off on someone else. He's now saying he didn't see the whole video, it was responsibility of the Admiral, which is totally different than what he initially said. Again, this is one of those issues where if the administration had simply come clean with the unedited video from day one, this could have been cleared up. But I think what I presume will happen is there was questionable actions here, and I just don't think it's fair that they throw uniformed military under the bus as opposed to taking responsibility. And we've seen 2 or 3 different answers from the president. He didn't know, he did know. It is, again, symptomatic of this administration's national security, which is chaotic at best and downright making Americans less safe across the board. Sure, we'll get questions on that. I do want to just answer one other issue that was clearly predominant in the last number of weeks, seems to have faded a little bit, but we, the Democrats, still believe very strongly that we should not allow the Obamacare coverage subsidies to expire at the end of the year. We're hearing from Virginians every day, 24 million Americans overall that would lose these subsidies. I'm hearing from Virginia families all the time, families who are currently maybe paying, I think the average family about 65 years old that was maybe making 70 grand in Roanoke, paying about average of $600 or $700, $800 a month, could see their premiums go up by $1,000 a month in certain cases. That will be devastating. And it's not only devastating to those families, those Virginians directly, but it's also devastating if you've got traditional health insurance and you're suddenly throwing a whole lot of folks off of the exchanges and back into the emergency room. That's going to drive everybody's costs up, and those will be passed on to people with private insurance. And that's all before the second shoe falls, which is the Medicaid cuts that will take place more close to the end of next year. But it is a double whammy on health care. And when the president keeps saying there's no affordability crisis, well, he obviously has not been talking to Virginians who are going to see their health care rates go up dramatically. We'll have a vote on this next week. The Democrats will propose a simple extension of these subsidies, and if they want to come back and figure out how we can improve them, welcome to it. But you can't fix this because people are right now buying their health insurance. Unfortunately, I don't think that we've seen any serious efforts from the administration or from my Republican colleagues. They've had now 10 plus years to try to come up with a health care alternative. They're batting zero. I think they're going to be batting zero next week. You always hope that they come to their senses and we end up with an extension that then we can figure out ways to improve the program. But I'm not very hopeful that will happen by next week, and consequently what a whole lot of Virginians are going to have for the Christmas holiday is dramatically increased healthcare costs. They're going to put strain on them through next year, and many people will end up opting out of the marketplace and frankly going without health insurance at all, and they're going to end up showing up at emergency rooms that are already overburdened. So with those are some of the comments at the top. Why don't I go ahead and go to Valeria or others, and we'll answer some questions.
Senator, the first question is from Emma Brown with the Virginia Pilot.
Hey, Senator Warner. This is Emma Brown. I'm the military reporter at the Pilot. I am just curious what you're expecting to learn from your briefing with Mitch Bradley today, and what kinds of questions you still have for him about what happened in the Caribbean.
Well, I want to hear, was there 1 strike, 2 strikes? There's been some reports that were up to 4 strikes. I want to hear how many strikes. I want to hear under what orders was he operating from Secretary Hegseth. I mean, was there not the order to kill them all regardless? I want to hear from him on that subject. I want to hear and see the unedited video. And I want to see if there was a secondary strike, what threat was being posed. If you've got folks, that are in the water, how are they still a threat? Scrambling for their lives. And I'm not an expert on military law, but my understanding from every expert I've talked to, if you are killing folks that are in duress, that are not trying to fight back, that's against international law. And why did that happen? And I've got also basic other questions. Most of the other boats that have been exploded have been usually less than 6 folks. So if they're drug boats, you want to put the minimum number of people on the boat and the maximum amount of drugs. This was a boat that was a speedboat that had 12 people on it. Were there really drugs on it or not? Did he have any validation and verification of that? This has been, again, chaotic policy at best and potentially violations of criminal law, or I'm sorry, international law at worst. And I have a lot of respect for Admiral Bradley. I've never met him, but I know him by reputation, and I hope and believe that he'll tell us the truth.
Thanks, Senator. The next question is from Noah Kim with WTKR.
Hey, this is
Noah, are you there?
this is this is Colt Rainstad. Noah is my colleague. He's the one who signed up to speak today, but he was just signing up on my behalf. I do have a quick question for you regarding the military action or military presence down in the Caribbean. As you mentioned, we've got thousands of Norfolk-based sailors down there in the Caribbean. What are you hearing as far as what could be coming in the days and weeks ahead? And what would be your message to the families of those thousands of Norfolk-based sailors who are hearing all of this, wondering if their sons and daughters and family members are soon going to be engaged in a conflict in Venezuela?
Well, first of all, I think our sailors deserve a clear explanation that, for example, these strikes on the drug boats, one, are they drug boats? Two, are there narco traffickers on those boats? Three, if there are, why don't you interdict them and show the world rather than simply blowing up to make sure their sailors, their family members and loved ones, are not doing something that's inappropriate. I think we need to give them assurance of that. Secondarily, I can tell you, and as a member of the Gang of Eight, there's been no presidential directive on Venezuela. So is the president trying to cook up a conflict to try to take people's attention off of the affordability crisis? I don't know what the goal is. Let me acknowledge, the president of Venezuela is a bad guy. Maduro is a bad guy. We have not recognized his government as official for some time. And frankly, again, the Biden administration screwed up on this one, because when the Venezuelan people voted to throw out Maduro, we didn't put enough pressure on the countries down there to get him out. But that's not a justification to suddenly put our troops in harm's way without either coming to Congress and asking for, in a sense, a declaration of war or approval, but to kind of simply keep ratcheting up the pressure. And the president continues to make these statements like, we're shutting down the airspace or we're going to start bombing. Listen, if he'd asked for any of that approval, I would know. I'm a member of the so-called Gang of Eight. He's made none of those requests. So we owe those families and we owe those sailors to make sure that they are not being led into armed conflict without the President of the United States explaining to the American people, and without going to Congress. If he's saying we're at war with Venezuela, he needs to declare war. And he's taken no such actions. So those families need truth, they need clarity, and they need somebody that's going to be straight with them if we're taking our most valuable assets, the men and women who serve to protect our country, and potentially putting them in harm's way.
Senator, the next question is from Tom Fitzgerald with WTTG.
Senator, good morning. I've got a lot on our plate this morning, including this news from the FBI that apparently an arrest has been made in the January 6th pipe bombing incidents at DNC and RNC headquarters back on January 6th, 2021. There is some reporting this morning that the suspect is in custody and possibly from Virginia. With your proviso that we understand that you don't talk about things that go on in the Senate Intelligence Committee, could you at least, number one, give us your reaction to this news? Number two, this has been 5 years. How closely has the federal government been following this, and have people been giving up hope that this coast would have been closed?
Well, Tom, I literally heard about this as I was sitting down, so I don't have any additional information. We have not been briefed up on this over these last few years. January 6th was a...
Okay, we are back in the studio now because Senator Warner talking about a number of topics there, including in his initial sort of monologue before question and answer started. But right in that question, they were asking about, I do believe, a Virginia man who has been arrested for how do I put this? Let me make sure I'm trying to find the words here. That question started and we rushed to get back on camera here. A Virginia man arrested for pipe bombs that were placed outside the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention on January 5th, 2021. Now, since Senator Warner finished his press conference, we actually heard from Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel, who announced that early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested for allegedly placing pipe bombs on January 5th, 2021, outside the RNC and the DNC. So since Senator Warner did his press conference this morning, we got information that that question was purportedly asking about, and that is that Brian Cole Jr., who is reported to be a Virginia man, has been arrested for allegedly placing pipe bombs outside of the two conventions on January 5th, 2021. So stories developing throughout the day. We are getting updates all the time. We are getting press conferences all the time on the various headlines that are in the news. And this is a case where throughout the day, a major piece of news developed even further while we were here on Live Impact News. So we are able to provide you an update on that particular story right now, live during our stream. Now, we're going to shift gears here a little bit. And, maybe we should. Naya, can you put that image back up? Because I do want to update that this is, we've been told by ABC, outside the home of the January pipe bomb suspect. This particular shot here is outside the home of that suspect in Woodbridge, Virginia. Just in case, I want to give a little bit of detail. That image has been up for the duration of me sort of communicating on this, so I wanted to add some clarity to what that image is. Okay, now we can shift gears. I apologize for the brief rewind. Something happened this morning that is relevant in a number of different ways. One of the world's preeminent sporting events, possibly the biggest sporting event in the world, the World Cup, will be right here in the United States in the summer of 2026. It'll be held in a number of cities throughout the U.S., as well as cities in Mexico and Canada. Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, L.A., Miami, New York, New Jersey, Philly, Seattle, and San Francisco will all be home to World Cup games coming up this summer. Again, the most important soccer tournament in the world and quite possibly the most significant sporting event in the world right here in the United States. And earlier today in Washington, D.C., a press conference, really an event, an all-out celebration featuring Team USA legend Kobe Jones, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, and others took place. And this comes one day in advance of the announcing of the World Cup draw, what groups all of the teams will be in, which is critical to how the tournament goes competitively. But today, first, this event, which really appeared to just be adding excitement to the proceedings, and is a part of a week-long celebration in Washington, D.C., as everyone prepares for the Canada, Mexico, United States World Cup of 2026. Let's go out to this recorded press conference.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here and welcome you all to the DOT FIFA 2026 World Cup Summit. My name is Kobe Jones, and I'm thrilled to be today's MC and welcome you all here today. It truly is an honor for me to be a part of this because I know this game. I played it my entire life, and it's a sport that propelled me to another level, and it's an opportunity for so many different people to experience that same gift. I want to let you know that the pride and the honor that I have to be up here to have participated in the World Cup, and let you know that it truly is indescribable. Having been a part of the games in 1994, I can't underscore the impact that 94 World Cup had on me and had on the entire country. For those of you that maybe weren't around and didn't have the opportunity to be there and weren't a participant during that time, I think we have to look back and understand what soccer was like in '94. It was a sport that not many people knew a whole lot about here within the United States. There was a very passionate group that did understand it. There was a passionate group that was saying, you don't know what's coming your way in '94 when the World Cup is coming. That it is special. That it is a moment that will be indescribable. And let me tell you, it was exactly that. Being part of that '94 team and coming from an era where no one really knew about soccer and there's very little visuals of soccer on TV, it was special to see the '94 World Cup, come to fruition. We went from a situation where there were very few people knowing about soccer to all of a sudden it was like, what's this game? What's it all about? People wanting to be a part of the World Cup. I can remember a particular experience, and this is very LA-centric, because that is where I'm from, that let me know that, wow, this is something special. If you know Los Angeles at all, you know the freeways are always crowded, no matter what. Being part of the team for that '94 World Cup, and this is the moment where I knew this was really something special. We're on the bus, going to training during the World Cup. We're heading to the 5 freeway, and there's no one there. I'm like, wait a second, what's going on? And then I looked down and saw that the police had stopped the entire 5 freeway, for our bus to drive through smooth to go to training. That was the moment for me where I said, being from LA, okay, we made it. We're here. Everyone's going to love this game and is going to participate in this. But let me tell you, there are some upset people, on the freeway trying to get to work. But that was the moment for me. I really knew that we had made it. 30 plus years later, we have the World Cup coming back to the United States. It is something special. I try to put it, or try to think about it in the way of explaining it to those of us that have children. If you think you know what's going to happen here, you don't know. It's like saying, oh, I've had my first child. Guess what? The second child is going to be just like the first one. No, we know that that's not true. Completely different. This World Cup will be different. It's going to be bigger, better, brighter, more exciting. That's what it's going to come down to. In 1994, for those of you that know, it was a special moment. The whole world's eyes were upon us. Within the United States, everyone got on board and participated and helped out that U.S. team make a special run. Well, in this World Cup, we have double the amount of teams as in 1994. There are going to be 48 teams spread across 3 different countries, where we have the opportunity to bring all of these countries together. Between Mexico, Canada, and the United States, we are going to be celebrating the World Cup here with 48 different teams. This is the opportunity to bring cultures together. This is going to be a special moment, in my humble opinion, where everyone's going to be coming together to celebrate the beautiful game. And as they say, in the old African proverb, it takes a village. Well, that's exactly what it's going to be like for this World Cup. It's going to take a village, and you are all part of that village, to make sure that everything is going right within this World Cup and the celebrations can be special for everybody here. This is not only a celebration of the beautiful game, it's a celebration of the 250th anniversary of our nation. So that's a whole nother level where, as I was talking to some people, we do have the opportunity for the U.S. to possibly play on July 4th, where something could be really special and take it to another level. I want all of you to know the games are more than the 90 minutes on the field. It truly is a celebration for all of these different countries that come here today, come here during the World Cup. It's not just the 90 minutes, it's the celebration before, it's the celebration after. And we know when we talk about events, you talk about those 90 minutes, but you'd also talk about the experience that you had around it. And everyone here is going to be a part of that. So I want to say, for the work that all of you are doing, making sure that trains run on time, that planes bring tourists in and out safely, trucks are delivering food to the stadiums, all of that is essential to make it something special, to make it a memory for all the fans, all the people, and everyone watching around the world. It truly is the beautiful game. It does take a village, and we are all part of that village. Okay. So thank you for what you do, and let's get the show started. First up, we've got a quick video from my colleagues at Fox. Can we roll it?
FIFA officially announced the greatest sporting event on the planet returns to the centerpiece of the world's greatest soccer. It is a party, it's a celebration for the world. Wake up, America, it's time to go again. Truly an event like no other.
This is incredible. This is going to be the biggest, the best World Cup.
Fans are ready for this one.
Billions of people around the world. There's so little in this world that unites us as a country, unites us as a planet.
Sensational finish. An absolute beaut. It doesn't get better. There is just so much quality. Look at that.
Oh my goodness! Try is locked into goal!
And these scenes will live forever.
I love that. I love that. The beautiful game, a perfect example that it's more than just what happens on the field. It's a little bit of everything. Pretty awesome. Right now, I'd like to turn things over to the host of today's event, the 20th U.S. Transportation Secretary, Sean P. Duffy.
How great is this? We have Kobe here emceeing our event. He is a legend, a National Soccer Hall of Famer, a three-time World Cup player, Fox Sports analyst. So Kobe, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this for us. Again, bringing so much energy in a week of great soccer energy with the FIFA draw tomorrow. So we are truly grateful for that. Hey, everybody. Yeah. Welcome to DOT. Thank you all for coming. Listen, we are excited. Tomorrow is going to be a great day at the Kennedy Center. President Trump is going to be there. Thousands of people are going to be in attendance. But around the world, 1 billion people are going to tune in to watch the draw at the Kennedy Center. So we're excited that we're kicking the event off today here at DOT. We're excited about FIFA The president is excited about FIFA because it's a great sporting event, but it's going to come to America on our 250th anniversary. And again, in America, we love sports. We love to celebrate our birthdays, so to combine those two things together is going to be absolutely fantastic. On top of that, at the White House, we're going to have the first ever UFC fight as well, so it's going to be a great celebration of America's 250th birthday. As we look to these games, right, we're going to have 6 million people that are going to come into the United States.
6 million people to the United States, one of the most significant international athletic events in the entire world, right here in the USA next summer. And that will do it for our stream today. Live Impact News, a Thursday edition, a Thursday afternoon edition, has come to its conclusion. An incredibly busy day, a lot to get to, and of course a weather impact alert tomorrow, which is how we started this stream with the forecast. Now, the question is, People's producer Nia Campbell, are you excited for the World Cup next summer? / do you have any last words?
I am pumped for the World Cup. I think I will actually go myself.
That's what we like to hear. Nia Campbell in a World Cup stadium?
Yes.
Okay, we'll keep everybody posted on that. That's the biggest news of the day here. Nia Campbell to the World Cup to the United States, and Live Impact News to a break for now. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow, and we certainly hope to see you then. Thanks for joining us on December 4th, this Thursday afternoon.